After 10,000 years, I have returned. It's time to take over the box office. And welcome to my safe haven. As I say with every video, thank you guys so much for clicking on this video and joining me for another review here on the Black Gay Comic Geek channel. But if this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, hey, let me introduce myself. My name is Michael. I call myself the Black Gay Comic Geek. Thank you for clicking on this video. And I always say that the things I love to talk about on my channel has blood, sex, gore, and magic, or any combination or variation of the force. I like to talk superheroes, action movies, comic books, animated movies, fantasy movies, sci-fi, horror movies, and of course I like to talk about black representation and queer representation. So if that's something that you find yourself actively interested in, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, watch this video to the end of the watch time. Hopefully I'm interesting enough. Watch, like, share, comment, interact on this video for the all gay rhythm. As you can tell from the title of this episode, I just got a chance to see Avatar: The Way of the Water yesterday, so I am here to talk non-spoilers for Avatar: Way of the Water. And this review is going to be interesting because I feel like I'm going to be talking out of both sides of my neck with regards to this review, because I have two different opinions and understandings regarding this movie, and obviously I can't go into full detail about it, but I will be coherent enough that I feel like you will be able to understand even without having seen the movie. And so yeah, let's get into it. Non-spoiler, Avatar: The Way of the Water. James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of the Water tells the tale of Jack Sully and Neytiri have formed a family and are doing everything to stay together. However, they must leave their home and explore the regions of Pandora. When an ancient threat resurfaces, Jake must fight a difficult war against the humans. And so yeah, Avatar: The Way of the Water, Avatar Part 2. This movie took, and I kind of joked about it in the intro, but this movie took 13 years before we finally got a sequel. The first one came out in 2009, and of course it is the highest grossing movie opening box office of all time, with like a almost, or I think it is at $3 billion at this point. The only movie to ever hit $3 billion box office gross. I think domestically Avengers Endgame beat Avatar, but worldwide Avatar is the #1 movie. But despite being such a record-breaking and a phenomenon in 2009, for the most part, Avatar hasn't really had that big of a cultural impact. Even as a person that loves to go to cosplays and conventions and dress up as, I was like, every time I go to a con, I barely see anybody dressed up as the Na'vi anymore. And part of me was like, yeah, if people don't even dress up as Na'vi anymore, people don't really care. And then I also, when I went to D23, they showed a little bit of clips from this movie, and it seemed like nobody really was interesting. Even when they were giving out posters from Avatar, there were a bunch of people that didn't take the posters, myself included. So with that said, like, I'm wondering, will James Cameron be able to capture lightning in the bottle for this movie again, in terms of like the success and the overall cultural box office impact, box office impact that this movie had? So yeah, let's talk about it. So yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna be talking out of two sides of my neck with regards to this review, because I feel like if it was shot and handled in any other way, I would have a vastly different opinion on this movie and talk about for this review, but I'll get into that. So with that said, like, I will come out and say, like, yes, in terms of like, and you've seen the tweets and people that have went to the red carpet premiere and have talked about it, but yes, in terms of like this, the way this movie is shot, do not sleep on James Cameron. This movie was a visual masterpiece. Every single shot in this movie looked incredible. The CGI looked better than any CGI I've seen in any movie in the last decade. And not even in just the way the Neytiri looked, but just the way the CGI looked in terms of like how they lit these characters and how photorealistic it looked in terms of like the shadows and the lighting and the darkness and the way the moon cascaded on the Na'vi and the way the Na'vi looked. You could like even kind of see like pores in the Na'vi when they were in the water. Like it just looked incredible, especially when you got to build out this world of Pandora, seeing other aspects of Pandora that we never got to see in the first movie. I mean, obviously the movie is called The Way of Water, and talking about with it being called The Way of Water, funny enough, the showrunners of Avatar: The Last Airbender came out and said the reason they had to put The Last Airbender after Avatar is because they had to, because of the way the Avatar movie that came out, and now they're calling it The Way of Water. And he was like, if the third movie is called Firebender anything, we're gonna riot. And part of me kind of feels like, I don't know, I feel like the third movie, I feel like they should troll. The third movie should be called like The Fire Nation or something like that. Just as a troll, because like, yeah, the first one took place in the forest, which is kind of Earth Nation-y. Now you got the water, so is there a fire tribe in terms of like a tropical nation of Na'vi somewhere? But regardless, like I really enjoyed seeing the world of Pandora fleshed out and seeing all these other aspects of Pandora, not just another tribe of Na'vi, but seeing all the different animals and just the way the ocean, like everything in this world looked incredible, which also includes a lot of the action set pieces. Like the action set pieces I had fun. Like there was one action set piece that was just so jarring and made me so uncomfortable. And obviously I can't say what it is or what the circumstances of why it made me uncomfortable, but the point of that action set piece, like the purpose of that scene was supposed to make you uncomfortable. It was supposed to elicit a visceral, emotional reaction from you. And that's exactly what that action scene did. And part of that is in how realistic it looked. And also the story around what happened with that action scene. And speaking of that, one of the big criticisms regarding the very first Avatar was the story and how the story was pretty much lacking. And but for the fact that the visuals were so incredible, they don't think this movie would have made as much of a box office impact that it did. And I completely agree with that. But I do feel like for this particular movie, the story was way better and way more well crafted for this second movie and way more enjoyable for this second movie. Like the basic theme for, and it's kind of the theme for the first movie, but they really doubled down on it for this movie. But the basic theme for Avatar: The Way of Water is humans ain't shit. And honestly, that's the thing that I really appreciated with regards to this movie, because truth of the matter is it's a message that we don't tell enough, especially when it comes to movies. Like, and I keep forgetting to watch it, and I keep reminding myself, but then I don't. But I do know the general premise of, think about the Netflix movie Don't Look Up and how just ridiculous humans are. Like, think about that and then dial it up to like a 45,000 with regards to this movie and how you're just like, yeah, humans really just are not shit. And I'm talking about human beings on a collective, not individual human beings or certain friend groups or whatever. Human beings as a collective ain't shit. And even it makes me go back to something that has stuck with me ever since I first saw the movie, with that speech that Agent Smith gives to Neo with regards to human beings being a virus to the planet Earth. And I was just like, and I've always felt that way from the moment I saw this movie. And I'm like, yes, from a collective standpoint, that is very true, because look at what we're doing even now in real life to this planet. Climate change has exacerbated because of human activity. A lot of animals are becoming extinct because of human activity. People are dying unnecessarily because of human activity and corporate greed. Like, corporate greed is to the point where it's like, if people have to die, but we can save money, then we're going to save money. It doesn't matter if a certain amount of people percentage can die, it'll be considered negligible so long as we save a couple million or whatever dollars, even though they're profitable by billions and billions of dollars. And the reason I get a little political and bring this up is because that all comes into play in this movie to, again, drill home the motto and the message that human beings ain't shit, especially when you get into the narrative of like colonization and things like that, which is also very prevalent in the first movie, humans coming to Pandora and basically trying to take out and commit genocide against the Na'vi and wipe out. Like, all of that comes into play in this movie and is interpreted and seen through a lot of different ways and a lot of different aspects. And like, I never would have thought, like, until I saw this, that I would be actively just rooting for human beings, all human beings, to be wiped out in this movie as much as I was while I was watching this movie. I was just like, kill them all, kill them all. Even the good ones. I was just like, no, kill them, kill all of them. Not a single one needs to remain in this movie. And so from that aspect, I was really invested in the movie and in the story. Now, with that said, on the flip side of this, and this is why I said I'm going to be talking out of both sides out of my neck, because yeah, on the one hand, I did enjoy the movie. However, on the other hand, I can understand and see, and these thoughts were going through my head also, but like, this movie is also heavily problematic in the sense of basically this story of Avatar and Pandora is the story of like American colonization. And basically like the Na'vi are Native American Indians, and the people, the sky people are basically European colonizers, Portuguese colonizers, Arab colonizers, except basically all the people that came and then, you know, participated in the slave trade, etc. Like, that is basically what this movie is. And so this is where I say it becomes a problem, that you're telling this indigenous story of colonization, but you're using mostly white people to tell this story. And then you're also adopting indigenous and black aesthetics told through the lens of white people and white main characters. And I know, yes, technically they're not white, they're blue, they're alien, but at the same time, you have somebody like Sam Worthington, Sigourney Weaver, Kate Winslet, Stephen Lang, and yes, there are brown and indigenous folks in this movie, but most of the main cast are white people. And then not only just that, and I made a TikTok video and posted that this morning, but then also, like, the thing about this movie, and not even just this movie, but a lot of movies too, white people love adopting and giving characters black and indigenous and other cultures aesthetics, and they love giving them these aesthetics, but then will vilify us in society for adopting these same aesthetics. For example, there are a bunch of characters, Na'vi and one of the kids, Spider, that have dreadlocks in this movie. Like Sam Worthington's character, full head of locks, and all his kids. And yeah, one of the kids, the oldest son is played by an indigenous person, but his other son, the youngest son, is a white kid, and he's more the main character. Granted, all of his kids are main characters, but if you're gonna pick one kid that's the real focal point, it's going to be the youngest son. And he also has locks in his head. And then also, like, you got these white actors putting on these accents and things. It's just, when you think about it too much, like, it becomes very problematic. And in many ways, at least for me, it's honestly easy to kind of ignore because it's filled with, you know, the amazing visuals and the CGI, and they are blue people. But then when you take a step back and think about it, like, yeah, they're blue people, but at the same time, you have these white actors putting on these fake accents and have dread, like, it becomes problematic when you think about it. Or when you think about the idea of like how society is different from 2009 as it is today. Like, think about the backlash that somebody like a Scarlett Johansson got for something like a Ghost in the Shell. Or even think about the plot line of the movie Get Out, of how white people were trying to inject themselves and inject their essence into black bodies. That's essentially what this movie is, because think about a character like Jake Sully, the main character, the hero, the leader of this tribe of Na'vi, the one that we're mostly following for the most part. Like, his character's not a Na'vi. His character is a white man who put himself in an avatar, I don't know why I put it in quotes, that is what it's called, put himself in an avatar and now lives his life as a Na'vi, but he's not Na'vi. And so with that, because of that, there's all that problematic stuff tied into this movie as well. But like I said, while watching the movie, like, because it was populated by blue people and all, it was something that, like, yes, it was in the back of my mind and it was things that I was thinking about, but I was still able to let it go and enjoy the movie and have a good time with the movie. But what I said earlier, how I was like, if this movie was done in any different type of way, I would be railing against this movie. Like, if they weren't blue people and like, you actually say, for example, actually see the actors and the way they look and the way they're actually cast, like it was actually Sam Worthington and it was actually Stephen Lang and it was actually Sigourney Weaver, I would be railing against this movie. But because you had the aesthetic and the cognitive dissonance of being like, oh, they're aliens, I was able to temporarily and not think about it. But at the same time, it's like, but it's still an issue. And then also, like, the biggest thing that makes it an issue in terms of, like, you got these white actors putting on these accents to pretend to be Pandora, pretend to be from Pandora, to pretend to be from Na'vi. Like, at least with Black Panther, like, they all settled on one accent, with the exception of, like, somebody like a Forrest Whitaker. God bless his soul, he tried. But, like, every child, and I'm not talking about people from different tribes or things. I'm talking about Jake Sully's children specifically. They all had different accents. They couldn't settle on an accent. It's like they should at least have one dialect coach to be like, okay, this is gonna be the settled accent. But they all had different accents, and it was just like. And also, with that said, this movie is 3 hours and 12 minutes long. This movie did not have to be that long. I feel like a lot of what made this movie so long, there were a lot of meandering shots of James Gunn basically elongating a lot of scenes to showcase off the high, incredible work of the visual aspects of the movie. Like, there were just a lot of moments of, like, for example, the characters swimming underwater and the scenes taking a long, and like I said, they were very beautiful to look at, but then at the same time, I'm sitting in the theater the whole time like, I hope I don't have to pee. I hope I don't have to pee. Let me not drink. Like, I'm super thirsty, but let me not drink a whole lot of this juice. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to end up going to the bathroom during this movie. So I do feel like despite how visually beautiful it was, a lot of those scenes, a lot of those moments could have been cut to make this movie shorter. And I do wish we got to see more of Jake and Neytiri more in this movie. Like, I feel like they kind of, almost in a way, A Quiet Place 2 kind of did. Granted, John Krasinski died in the first one, so he really wasn't a part, he didn't play a part at all in the second movie, but how Emily Blunt's character took a back seat, and the second movie was more so focused on the kids, more so on the daughter. For this particular movie, this movie was more so focused on Jake Sully's kids, and Jake and Neytiri kind of took a back seat. Like, they were there, but it was mostly focused on the kids. And while I appreciated it, and I did enjoy the kids' character, and shout out to Bailey Bass, who played one of the Na'vi in this movie, who is Bailey Bass, if you don't know. She's actually the one that plays Claudia in the AMC's Interview with the Vampire. And so I enjoyed seeing the kids, but I do wish we got to see a little bit more. Not to say we didn't see them at all, but I wish we still got to see more of Jake and Neytiri. But overall, despite knowing and recognizing that this movie is hella problematic, I still ultimately enjoyed this movie way more than I even thought I would enjoy this movie. And honestly, I enjoyed this movie way more than I enjoyed the first. Like, the first one, I think I saw in theaters maybe twice, and then I was like, I would have no interest in buying the first one on Blu-ray or whatever. But this one, I would watch again on, like, streaming or, you know, whatever. Like, I would watch it again. And I mean, if you can let go of some of the problematic things a lot of the problematic things that I talked about in this movie, or go into this movie knowing that there's gonna be those issues, I still feel like the movie, I would recommend, especially on the big screen, because just in the sense of, like, how gorgeous it was. Like, granted, even if that's all you go to the movie for, I still feel like something like that should be seen on screen, on a big screen. So I would definitely recommend the movie, not even just for the visual aspect. Like I said, there were elements of the story, like especially the message of humans ain't shit. I definitely still enjoyed that, and I feel like it was a better narrative and a more cohesive narrative than the first movie. So for that, I would recommend seeing Avatar: Way of the Water. So something that I forgot to mention, this movie is in 3D. Yes, they are bringing 3D back. And, like, honestly, like, I wasn't a fan of, like, it became a tired trope. I was over it or whatever. But I do think the 3D aspects and elements of this movie in particular definitely enhanced the visual quality of this movie. And at a certain point, I almost forgot I was wearing the 3D glasses because of just how incredible the movie looked. So also for that aspect of being able to see it in 3D on a big screen, I would definitely recommend seeing it in theaters. So yeah, that's my overall conflicted review of Avatar 2. But with that said, after you see Avatar 2 in the theaters, what did you think about it? Or maybe you're not interested in going to see it in the theaters, especially after everything that I said. Let me know all of your thoughts, conflicting or otherwise, in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out with the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.